Good morning, Lola. Nanny thought today I'd read you a story. It's called The Smelly Little Dog, and it's about a dog that turned up on the beach and took a liking to the family. So here we go. The children rushed down onto the beach with their spades, buckets and boats. Mummy followed with the packets of sandwiches and a big bottle of lemonade. She signalled to the man who hired out the deck chairs, and he came hurrying up with one at once. "There," said Mummy, sitting down thankfully, for it was a long walk from their boarding house to the beach. "Now you've got a whole day to play and paddle and swim, children. It's so hot today that you can get as wet as you like. The sun will soon dry you out." Joan, Fred and Betsy felt very happy. The things they would do: build an enormous castle with a moat around it full of water, said Fred. And to sail my boat on those little waves, said Joan. And take my Teddy paddling with me, said little Betsy. And have ice creams when the ice cream man comes round, said Mummy, laughing. "Oh, here's that little dog again. Go away, you smelly little dog." There's a little dog, look. And the children are playing on the beach. Here we are. "Mummy, he's quite a nice little dog," said Fred. "I know he looks very dirty though. He goes splashing in the sea quite a lot and ought to be quite clean by now. And I'm sure his master doesn't give him enough to eat. He's so thin." "Get away from those packets of sandwiches, dog," said Mummy crossly, as the dog came sniffing round. "You're always hungry. Why doesn't your master feed you properly?" The deck chair man stood nearby. He chased the little dog away. "You're a nasty little stray." "He's not nasty," said Betsy at once. "He's got a nice face. I like him. I want him to play with me." So the little dog played with them all the morning, though Mummy shooed him away as soon as he came near her and the sandwiches. Betsy shared her sandwiches with him when dinner time came, and so did Fred and Joan. He seemed very, very hungry, but he was quite polite and he didn't snap at all. He seemed to like Betsy best, and she cuddled him when she had finished her sandwiches. "Betsy, you are not allowed to cuddle that smelly little dog," said Mummy sharply. "Oh, I know, he's friendly enough, but it's only your sandwiches he's after. Push him away, go home, dog, go home." The little dog ran off and sat down looking very sad. There he is, look, looking very sad, sat on the beach. Can you see him? Looking very sad because he's been shooed away. The little dog ran off and sat down looking very sad. Nobody ever wanted him. He really was dirty and smelly and very thin. He would certainly have gone home if he could, but he hadn't a home. Since he was a puppy and he had been left behind on the beach by a man who didn't want him. So how could he go home? "Now," said Mummy, when all the biscuits and apples she'd bought had been eaten, "you can go and buy a big ice cream each from the ice cream man up on the front, and bars of chocolate from the sweet shop. Take Fred's hand, Betsy." The little dog went with them. He liked these children. They didn't throw stones at him and call him horrible names, and like some children did. Perhaps he might have a lick of an ice cream. The ice cream man sometimes spilt some as he slapped it between the wafers. When the children came back to the beach, their mother was fast asleep. "What shall we do?" asked Fred. "I think I'll go for a swim. Come on, Joni." Betsy looked sad. She couldn't swim like the others. "I shall paddle," she said. And there she is, look. Children are playing in, but little Betsy had to stay with her Teddy because she wasn't big enough to go in the water. He told me he liked, that's it. He won't be like let's start again. "The things that the bear says to you," says Joan, laughing. "I shouldn't take him paddling, Betsy. He won't like getting his feet wet." He told me he did like it, said Betsy seriously. He told me his feet were hot like mine, and he wanted to feel the cold sea on them. The others laughed and ran into the sea at top speed, plunging into the big waves. They were good swimmers. Betsy stood and watched them. I can't swim. Teddy and I can't swim, she said, but one day we'll be big enough. She walked her bear down to the sands to the water's edge. Talking to him, she felt lovely and cool over her toes. She dabbled the bear's toes in the water too. The little dog came and sat down at the edge of the sea and watched. He was afraid to go too near Betsy and the bear in case they didn't want him. Here's the bear, look. Betsy's been naughty. She's gone into the water with Teddy too deep. And the doggy's worried. Look, he's watching them. He saw Joan and Fred quite far out and gave a little bark as if to say, be careful now. But they were such good swimmers that they were quite safe. They were racing one another to the pier. Betsy watched them. Let's go in a bit further, Teddy, she said, feeling very brave. You're not afraid of the big waves, are you? I'm not either. So they went in further and Teddy Bear was getting wet, right up until to his neck. Look. They've gone in too deep, haven't they? Because they can't swim. You're not afraid of the big waves, are you? I'm not either. So they went in further. Teddy Bear was getting wet and wetter. Do you like it, Teddy? Said Betsy. Yes, you do. Oh, look at this great big wave coming. Hold my hand tight. The wave was really very big indeed. It curled over just as it reached Betsy and splashed right over her head. Can you see? Look, it's going to splash and take Teddy away from her. She sat down very suddenly indeed and let go of the bear's paw. In a trice, the wave had taken him away from her in the deeper water. There he went, turning over and over, his little brown body as wet as it could be. Teddy, come back, you'll be drowned, shouted Betsy, getting up and wading after him. But oh dear, another big wave came, and over she went again. Then before she could get up, spluttering and frightened, another one broke over her head, and she disappeared under the water. The wave rolled her onto the sea when it ran back on itself, and poor little Betsy couldn't even stand up. Fred and Joan didn't see, they were too far away. Mummy didn't see either because she was fast asleep. Nobody saw except for the smelly little dog. He stood up at once when he heard Betsy scream. Then he plunged into the waves and swam steadily to her. And at that very moment Mummy woke up. She sat up to see where the children were and saw poor little Betsy being taken away by the waves. She screamed loudly and began to run down the beach. The little dog was almost up to Betsy. Ah, there she was. He snapped at her t-shirt and got it between his teeth. Then he tried to swim towards the beach with her. There he is, look. The doggy swam right up to Betsy, trying to save her from the big waves. And there he is, look, he's got the t-shirt. He's going to try and swim back to shore with her to safety. The water was very heavy for such a little dog. He panted and puffed, swallowing the water. But he didn't let go of her t-shirt. No, he clung on for all it was worth. This was a little girl who always spoke kindly to him. She was in trouble, and there wasn't anyone but him to help her. He dragged poor Betsy into the shallower water, and then, just as he thought he simply couldn't hold on any longer, someone caught hold of Betsy and lifted her up. There, it was her mummy. The doggy took her back to the shore, look, and her mummy took her out of the water. She waded back with Betsy, who was choking and spluttering and crying with fright. The little dog followed and sat down at a safe distance to watch. Darling, you shouldn't have gone out so far, said Mummy, cuddling poor frightened little Betsy. You might have been drowned. you would have been if it wasn't for the smelly little dog hadn't gone after you and tried to bring you back. I went after my Teddy, said Betsy, crying. He's still out there. Mummy, he'll drown. Oh, please get him for me. I can't bother about your Teddy now, said Mummy, hugging her. I'm only too glad that you are safe. But someone bothered about her Teddy, who was now so soaked with water that he was almost sinking. Only little bare nose could be seen. The little dog caught hold of him and swam back at once. He laid the bear down on the sand beside Betsy, and then, as Fred and Joan came racing out of the water to find out what was happening, he went a little way away and sat down again. He was very, very glad he had been able to save the bear too, but he was sad to hear Betsy was crying. There, look, Betsy's pleased that the little smelly dog has saved the teddy bear from the water as well. Dear, what a lovely little smelly dog. So, what happens now? She stopped crying when she saw her teddy bear beside her. She took him up, soaking wet as he was, and hugged him to her. That little dog saved you too, she said. Mummy, isn't he a good little dog? Very, very good, said Mummy, hugging Betsy again. Fred, Joan and little Betsy were nearly drowned when she took her Teddy into the water for a paddle. If it hadn't been for the little dog, who raced after her and got her out of the waves, she would have been drowned. Oh, Betsy, to think I was asleep too, and didn't know till it was almost too late. Oh, you good little dog, said Fred, turning to where the little creature sat. His head was on one side, listening. He was very, very wet, but he didn't mind that at all. He was so very glad that the little girl he liked was smiling again. Mummy, I want to hug that little dog, said Betsy. Come here, dog, come here. He ran up, his tail down, wondering if he was going to be told off. But no, of course he wasn't. Betsy hugged him. Fred hugged him, and Joan too. And then Mummy patted him and spoke to him kindly. There, look. They were all patting the dog because he was a very brave little dog. Little dog, you need a home. Would you like to come and live with us? We have an old kennel that you could have. I shall never forget what you did today. Never. You're the best little dog in the world. Well, the little dog couldn't believe his ears. He licked Mummy, he pranced around, and his tail wagged so fast that it could hardly be seen. Then he went and lay down beside Betsy, his head on her knee, as if to say, I'm your dog, I belong to you. Betsy understood, of course. Yes, you're my dog, she said. I'll certainly share with the others, but you belong to me. And I'm going to call you Splash, because you splashed into the water to save me. And that is how Splash came to live with his little family of his own. You wouldn't know him now. He's spotlessly clean, gleaming brown and white, his tail is always up, and he's quite plump. I know all about him because one day I heard Betsy shouting, Splash, Splash. When she called him to her, I asked her why he had such a strange name, and when she told me, I thought I really must tell you. And that is how the story came to be written. And that's the story of Splash. There he is, look, happy in his new home with Betsy. There, I hope you like that, Lola. Nanny will do another one for you later. Love you lots, missing you. And you, Alfie and Frankie. Bye.